He told everyone we were getting engaged at his mom's birthday dinner, but I showed up with proof that he lied about everything. Then he ran out of the house before dessert, even reached the table. I was called a decorative disgrace in front of an entire room of tech executives, and that was the last thing my boyfriend ever said to me. I still hear it in my head, like it's on a loop I can't turn off. We were at a corporate networking event hosted by his company. Gavin had begged me to come because, according to him, his boss wanted to meet the woman behind his success. He said it like I was some kind of secret weapon he was finally ready to show off. I fell for it. Hook, line, and humiliating sinker. I spent hours getting ready. I borrowed heels from my friend Jasmine, curled my hair twice because it didn't sit right the first time, and even got my nails done on the way to the venue. The dress I wore was a soft red satin midi, fitted but classy. Gavin had once said it made me look intimidating in the best way. I wanted him to feel proud standing next to me. We arrived at the event a little late. Gavin was glued to his phone and didn't even wait for me to get out of the car before heading in. I remember rushing after him, thinking, maybe he's nervous. When I walked into that ballroom, he was already surrounded by people. Champagne in hand, loud laugh, full charisma mode. I walked up and tried to grab his arm gently. He barely glanced at me, then said to the group, loud enough to make my stomach drop, "Oh, this is Haley. Don't mind the dress. She likes to pretend she's from old Hollywood." People chuckled awkwardly. I stood there, frozen, pretending to smile. For the next hour, I was treated like furniture. Gavin kept walking ahead of me, leaving me stranded in conversations I had no context for. When I did speak, he cut me off or rephrased my words like I was a child he had to clarify for. One guy, Alan, I think, asked what I did for work, and as I began to explain my job in interior design, Gavin interrupted with, "She makes people's bedrooms look more expensive than their lives actually are." Laughter, then silence, then more champagne. I told myself I'd make it through dinner, then leave. But dinner never happened. Instead, Gavin climbed onto the small stage they had set up for presentations. I assumed he'd make some announcement about his project or thank his team. Instead, he cleared his throat and said, "Before we all dig into dessert, I just want to address something personal. I've decided to part ways with someone who's been, let's say, decoratively supportive. Sometimes the packaging doesn't match the product, you know?" He looked right at me. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then some people laughed, thinking it was a joke. I didn't laugh. I didn't move. He stepped down, walked past me without a word, and said over his shoulder, "A girl like you should be grateful I brought you here at all." Then he left. Just like that. I couldn't feel my legs. I don't even remember how I got out of there. All I know is that I stood there, in my red dress, alone in a room full of strangers, trying to act like I hadn't just been thrown away like a promotional pamphlet. I drove home in silence, no music, no tears. Just this deep, ringing numbness. When I finally walked into my apartment, I dropped my purse, peeled off the dress, and sat on the floor. That's when the notifications started coming in. LinkedIn, Instagram, even Twitter. Gavin had already posted about cutting out distractions and rising above the noise. He posted a solo photo from the event with the caption, "Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is remove the clutter." I wish I could say I was surprised. I wish I could say that was the first time he'd made me feel like I didn't belong. But what came next made me realize Gavin hadn't just lied to me about love. He had lied to everyone about who he was, what he did, and what he was hiding behind that smile. Because when Jasmine came over and saw the post, she didn't say, "I told you so." She just looked at her phone, looked at me, and said, "Haley, I don't think Gavin even works at that company." I stared at Jasmine like she'd just told me the sky was fake. "What do you mean Gavin doesn't work there?" She didn't answer right away. She just started typing furiously on her phone while I sat on the couch, wrapped in my robe like some broken contestant on a reality show reunion special. She finally looked up and said, "I'm texting my cousin Tyler." He works in IT, at that same company Gavin claimed to be a strategic consultant for. If anyone can check, it's him. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might throw up. I'd been with Gavin for nearly a year. I'd seen him take work calls, review spreadsheets, even sit through Zoom meetings where I was told, "It's confidential, babe." And now Jasmine, my best friend since college, was implying that the entire foundation of our relationship was a lie? She kept talking, but my brain was stuck replaying all the little red flags I had ignored. The mysterious client dinners that always ended past midnight but left no receipt. The way he never invited me to his office, not once, because it's all under construction. His refusal to talk specifics about coworkers, calling them distractions. And that time I asked if I could bring snacks to one of his team retreats, and he laughed and said, "They wouldn't know what to do with kindness." The dots weren't just connecting now. They were blaring like warning signs I should have seen months ago. An hour later, Jasmine's phone buzzed. She handed it to me without a word. From Tyler. "Hey, weird question, but we don't have a Gavin in consulting or strategy. No one by that name at all in the internal directory. Want me to double-check with HR?" I felt my lungs collapse. I had been dating a fiction, a walking resume of lies dressed up in custom blazers and empty ambition. The man who called me clutter in front of his colleagues didn't even have colleagues. Jasmine sat beside me, quiet for once, which said everything. She's usually the loud one, the fixer, the fighter, but even she looked rattled. "I need to know the truth," I whispered. We spent the rest of the night in full-blown detective mode. I pulled up Gavin's LinkedIn profile. His job title? Senior Strategic Consultant, Emerging Markets. The company name was spelled wrong. Wrong. We checked the photos he'd posted. Him in boardrooms, presentations, even one where he stood with a group of suited men, smiling. I reverse image searched it. It was from a stock photo website. It had 14 downloads and came up under the tag Corporate Diversity Teamwork. That's when I started shaking. Not crying, not yelling. Just this cold, bitter trembling that spread through me like frostbite. I went through our texts, emails, everything. There were entire weekends where he claimed to be on site in Seattle. Meanwhile, his location history? A cabin in Vermont with his old college friend, Dylan. I had asked to meet Dylan once. Gavin said Dylan was going through a rough time. I sat back, staring at the ceiling. How much of my life had I built around a man who didn't even exist the way I thought he did? That's when Jasmine's phone buzzed again. Tyler. She read it first, then turned to me slowly. "He just told me Gavin's real job is, get this, junior operations assistant. He's not in consulting. He doesn't even work on strategy. He schedules meetings and orders lunch." I blinked. That night, at the networking event, he said he was coordinating an expansion in Brazil. Turns out he was coordinating sandwich trays for the finance team. I started laughing. Not because it was funny, God, no, but because I had to release the pressure building in my chest or I was going to shatter. Then Jasmine said something I'll never forget. "Do you remember when he told you he was meeting with his manager that night you had food poisoning and asked him to come over?" I nodded. "That manager is Tyler, and Tyler says they've never met outside work. Ever." I looked down at my phone and saw a new notification. Text from Gavin. "Hey, we should talk. I miss you." That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't just betrayed. I had been performed to. And now I was going to take the stage back. I didn't think I'd ever hear from Gavin again after exposing all his lies to myself and to Jasmine. But then, just 2 days later, I got a text that made my stomach twist. "My mom's birthday dinner is Saturday. She's expecting you. We have big news to share." I actually laughed out loud. Big news? What news? That I found out he's a glorified errand boy pretending to be a corporate god? At first, I planned to ignore it. Block his number, cut my losses, and move on. But something gnawed at me. His parents had always been kind, especially his mom, Evelyn. She once baked me a pie when I was sick and called every week just to check in. They didn't deserve to be lied to. Not by Gavin. And certainly not about me. So Jasmine and I crafted a plan. I wouldn't show up angry or dramatic. I'd show up calm, graceful, smart, and I'd let the truth speak for itself. We spent hours putting everything together. Screenshots of Gavin's fake LinkedIn profile, photos he posted from company events that were actually just stock images. Tyler even sent over internal messages showing Gavin was on probation for, get this, taking credit for someone else's project deck and blaming the intern when caught. By Saturday, I had everything ready. I wore a navy dress Gavin once called forgettable, and paired it with heels I knew made me look like I ran the room. Jasmine helped with my hair and gave me one last pep talk before I drove over. I arrived exactly 15 minutes late, just enough to make an entrance. Evelyn greeted me at the door with a warm hug and that motherly smile that almost made me cry. "Gavin's in the dining room," she said. "He's been telling everyone about your big announcement." I walked in, and there he was, laughing, wine in hand, completely oblivious. His face went pale when he saw me. For a second, I swear he looked like he saw a ghost, but he pulled it together quickly and came over. "You actually came," he whispered, jaw tight. I smiled sweetly and replied, "Of course. I wouldn't miss your mom's birthday, especially not with all the news you've been spreading." His hand froze on my elbow. Dinner started soon after. It was Gavin's extended family, maybe a dozen people in total. We made small talk. Gavin steered the conversation constantly, bragging about his team's new expansion strategy and how his boss delegates everything to him now. Evelyn beamed. "We're so proud of him," she said. "He's finally getting the recognition he deserves." That's when his dad, Richard, chimed in. "Gavin told me he's getting promoted to director next quarter." I nearly choked on my water. He wasn't just lying. He was building a whole imaginary empire. I waited until dessert. Just as Evelyn brought out the cake, I casually said, "Gavin, do you want to tell them, or should I?" The room went silent. Forks paused midair. "What are you talking about?" he hissed under his breath. I pulled out a small folder from my purse and placed it gently on the table. "This is your son's promotion," I said. "Stock images, fabricated job titles, a fake LinkedIn profile, and messages from his actual coworker proving he's been lying to all of you." Evelyn looked confused. Richard stared at the folder, then at Gavin. "What is this?" Gavin started stammering. "She's just bitter because I broke things off. She's trying to ruin my career." "No, Gavin," I said calmly. "You ruined your own career. I just stopped covering for it." Then I turned to Evelyn and added, "And I thought you deserved to know the truth before he announces that fake engagement he's been teasing all night." Her jaw dropped. Gavin's face turned beet red. "You're lying!" he snapped. That's when the doorbell rang. Everyone turned. Evelyn opened the door, and Tyler walked in, holding a stack of documents. "Sorry to crash the party," he said, "but Gavin forgot these performance reviews. Figured now's as good a time as any." Richard stood up slowly. "Performance reviews? What's going on?" Tyler looked Gavin straight in the eye. "I think it's time you told them what your actual job is." And that's when Gavin bolted from the table and ran out the front door. No explanation, no apology, just full-on flight mode. The room was dead silent. Then Evelyn looked down at the folder in her hands and whispered, "Oh my God! If you were sitting at that table, would you have said something sooner? Drop a 2 in the comments. I need to know." I thought Gavin running out of his mother's birthday dinner like a toddler throwing a tantrum would be the climax. I was wrong. Because what came next wasn't just fallout. It was revelation after revelation, each one peeling back another layer of his carefully curated lies. After he bolted, no one said a word for a full minute. Evelyn stood frozen, still holding the folder. Richard sat down slowly, looking like he'd just aged 10 years. Tyler stayed by the door, awkward but firm. He wasn't leaving until this truth was finished. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The silence said enough. Eventually, Kaylee, Gavin's cousin, broke it. She just muttered, "Well, I always knew he was full of it." That seemed to unlock the room. Evelyn asked Tyler questions, real ones, specific ones. What does Gavin actually do? Is he respected? Has he ever been promoted? Tyler was honest, but gentle. He's on thin ice at work, he admitted. There've been issues with performance, and with honesty. HR's already involved. Evelyn looked devastated, like her entire image of her son had just crumbled in her hands. Richard didn't say much, just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and poured himself a drink. I stayed for maybe 20 more minutes. It wasn't my place anymore. But before I left, Evelyn walked me to the door and pulled me into the quiet of the hallway. "I'm sorry," she said softly, "for what he did to you, for everything." She looked like she wanted to cry, but she didn't. "We thought he'd finally turn things around, that you were the reason." "I thought so too," I said. "But Gavin, he was never building a future. He was building a story. And I was just a chapter." Evelyn hugged me, and I walked away from that house lighter than I had in months. But Gavin wasn't done. The next morning, he started texting me again. Furious, rambling messages, accusing me of destroying his reputation, of manipulating his family, of teaming up with corporate snakes. Then came the emails, long, dramatic monologues about how I had forced him to lie, how I never really supported him, and that I was jealous of his potential. Potential. The man faked PowerPoint slides and stole lunch orders from interns. I didn't respond, not once. But he escalated. He posted a photo of me from our anniversary trip, me asleep on the plane, mouth open, blanket crooked, with the caption, "This is the woman who tried to ruin my life. Liar and lace." He tagged me, tagged my work account. I didn't panic. I documented every message, every post, every screenshot. I created a backup drive and gave Jasmine access in case he tried to pull anything worse. Then, he went quiet. Too quiet. Which is why, when I got a call from my front desk concierge 3 days later saying, "There's a man here demanding to be let up. Says he forgot something in your apartment." I knew exactly who it was. I told them to call building security immediately. Then I went into my hallway, locked my deadbolt, and turned on the peephole cam I'd installed that very morning. Gavin was pacing the lobby, yelling at the front desk about how I had his hard drive, and that she's holding personal property. The security guard, Marcus, a no-nonsense former Marine, got in his face and made it very clear Gavin had two choices: leave now or leave in cuffs. He chose to leave, but not before looking straight into the building camera and shouting, "You'll regret this! I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are." Oh, Gavin, if only you knew. Because while he was busy threatening me, I had been busy too. Earlier that week, I'd finally opened the email that Tyler had been too nervous to send me at first. A single file. One audio clip. He'd recorded Gavin bragging during lunch one day. Loud, cocky, and damning. Yeah, I told her I was running a global team. She believed every word. Women like that eat that stuff up. Designer shoes and dumb hearts. And then he laughed. A long, smug laugh. The file was time-stamped, unedited, saved from a company device. And the best part? Gavin didn't know I had it, but HR was about to, because tomorrow morning I was walking into his office with a USB drive, a printed transcript, and nothing left to lose. I walked into Gavin's office building like I belonged there. Hair smooth, shoulders back, USB drive in one hand, coffee in the other. It was 8:42 a.m., strategically before the chaos of Monday morning fully hit, and I knew from Tyler that HR usually did their onboarding meetings around 9. Perfect window. I signed in at the lobby with a calm smile, ignoring the security guard's raised eyebrows when I said, "Visiting HR." They buzzed me up without a word. Tyler was waiting in the hallway on the 14th floor. He didn't say anything, just nodded and opened the door to the small HR conference room where Julie, the director, and Marcus, the legal compliance officer, were reviewing paperwork. I introduced myself, handed over the drive, and said simply, There's a recording on there you'll want to hear. I believe it explains several of the complaints you've received about Gavin Cole. Julie blinked. Complaints? I looked at Tyler, who took a deep breath and said, There's more than one. We all sat in silence as the clip played. Yeah, I told her I was running a global team. She believed every word. Women like that eat that stuff up. Designer shoes and dumb hearts. His voice echoed through the room like poison in stereo. Marcus paused the clip, then pressed play again. Another voice, one I recognized as Pablo, laughed and asked, You think she'll ever figure it out? Gavin. Doesn't matter. If she does, I'll spin it. I always do. Julie exhaled slowly, folded her hands together, and said, Thank you for bringing this to us. I stood. You'll handle it from here? She nodded. Legally, ethically, and thoroughly. And just like that, I left. No need to say goodbye. 2 days later, I got the call from Tyler. Gavin was fired. Immediate termination. No severance. The company cited gross misconduct, ethical violations, and damage to company reputation. Apparently, Gavin showed up that morning smug as ever, until security escorted him out before he could even touch his desk. The story spread like wildfire, especially since someone had anonymously shared the transcript with a few team leads. But it didn't end there. The lies Gavin had told weren't just personal, they bled into his professional life. He'd listed projects he never worked on, taken credit for data he didn't analyze, even forwarded emails from a fake client address he created himself. It turned out this wasn't just office drama, it was potential fraud. Last I heard, the company's legal team was still reviewing whether to pursue formal charges. But even if they don't, Gavin's professional reputation? Gone. Burned to ash. He tried calling me 4 times after that. Left 2 voicemails, one begging, one blaming. I didn't listen to the second one. I blocked him for good. A week later, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. It was from Evelyn. She thanked me for the courage to tell the truth, for helping them see through the performance. She wrote that Gavin was now living with a cousin in upstate New York, that he'd been forced to get a part-time job at a hardware store. She said she still loved her son, but she couldn't enable him anymore. And then she ended the letter with this: You gave us the truth. I hope you find peace. You deserve someone who doesn't see you as decoration, but as the whole damn room. I cried after reading that. Not because I was sad, because it felt like closure. I'd spent months doubting myself, wondering if I was the problem, if I'd missed something, if I could have fixed it. But the truth is, some people don't want to be better. They want to be admired, obeyed, feared. Gavin didn't love me. He loved the image of being someone who could be loved. But I loved me enough to walk away from that illusion and burn the whole fake empire down behind me. And now, I'm good. Really good. I started my own design consulting service with Jasmine. I don't flinch when I hear Gavin's name anymore. I wear that red dress again, this time with pride. And every time someone asks me why I'm smiling so much lately, I just say this: because I finally realized the strongest thing I ever did was stop apologizing for seeing the truth. If you've ever had to fight for your peace after someone shattered it, drop a 2 in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I've got more real stories to tell.